If you have already watched this introductory information, you can skip ahead no more than 10 minutes. Hello, welcome. I am predicting that a suitcase nuke, or possibly a dirty bomb, will explode in Manhattan, New York City on January 13th, 2025. There will be a large-scale evacuation from Manhattan Island. Martial law will be declared in the U.S. I am predicting that Joe Biden will suffer a stroke on January 14th, 2025. It will either be faked that he is still alive or faked that he is not incapacitated and the 25th Amendment does not need to be invoked. I am predicting that on January 15th, 2025, Vice President Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash in St. Louis due to a bird strike into Busch Stadium. In the area code 314, it will be a burning bush, as described in Exodus 3:14. She will be replaced by Michelle Obama, and then Barack Obama will replace Michelle. I am predicting that on January 17th, 2025, Israel will bomb, possibly with nuclear bombs, Iran's nuclear and energy weapons facilities. It is also possible that the U.S. will also bomb Iran on January 17th. It is predicted that Joe Biden will replace Kamala Harris with Michelle Obama as the vice president. It is predicted that Joe Biden will step down and Michelle Obama will become the 47th president on January 19th, 2025. It is predicted that Michelle Obama will appoint Barack Obama as the 51st vice president. It is predicted that Michelle Obama will step down and then Barack Obama will become the 48th president. It is predicted that President Trump will die from a heart attack on February 13th, 2025. It is predicted that on April 20th, 2025, there will be an outbreak of monkeypox or Marburg disease or both. April 20th will be a symbolic beginning to a new pandemic. Alternatively, it could also be that the symbolic beginning to the new pandemic will be on April 1st, 2025, and that on April 20th, 2025, martial law will be declared because of the new outbreak. If these predictions for April 1st and April 20th, 2025 do not come to pass, there will be a relevant prophetic sign that will occur on this date, making this date a step in the trail of signs leading to these particular events. It is predicted that on June 9th, the key will open the bottomless pit and fallen angels will cross over into the earthly realm. June 9th will be a symbolic beginning to the fifth trumpet judgment that is described in Revelation chapter 9, when the demonic realm collides with the earthly realm. June 9th will be a symbolic beginning to demons pretending to be aliens. The demons pretending to be aliens will claim to be here to help us with our nuclear weapons, and it is possible that June 9th will be the day Pope Francis will announce that aliens have arrived and have made him the ambassador for the world. This will immediately give Pope Francis, the Antichrist, supreme power over governments of the world. At some point, there will be a massive Mary apparition that will deceive the masses, because all Mary apparitions in history have been demons pretending to be Mary. June 9th will be a symbolic beginning to a zombie pandemic and the masses becoming demonically possessed that will be facilitated through the thing, which is the mark of the Antichrist, and 5G frequencies. June 9th will be a symbolic beginning to the coming genocide politicide in America. If June 9th is not the date for these events, there will be a relevant prophetic sign or prophetic signs. which will make June 9th a step in the trail of signs leading to the date of the symbolic beginning of these things. I am predicting that singer-songwriter Paul Simon will die on August 1st, 2025. It is predicted that on August 6th, 2025, the historic barge that has been stuck on the rocks of the Niagara River for over 100 years will finally break free and crash over Niagara Falls. The reason for this is that Niagara Falls is Noah's flood symbolism, and the barge was involved in the most dramatic rescue in the history of Niagara Falls, symbolic of Noah's Ark. Niagara in the native language means straight, narrow way, and Niagara's Horseshoe Falls is perfectly aimed at the CN Tower in downtown Toronto, because Toronto and its tower are symbolic of the Tower of Babel. In a game of horseshoes, the object is to aim the horseshoe and throw it at the metal stick, which is why the Horseshoe Falls is perfectly aimed at the metal stick that is the CN Tower. God is communicating that as testament for those who will live in the 1,000 years of Christ's reign on earth, the geography of North America will, as a result of a massive earthquake, be divided by a body of water from the Great Lakes to the Mississippi Delta. This destruction will be judgment on America and Canada for attempting to divide God's land, Israel. When this happens, the water in the Great Lakes will spill out over southern Ontario and Toronto. I am predicting that a solar flare will erupt on the surface of the sun and send a coronal mass ejection that will hit Earth on August 13th, 2025, which will knock out America's power grid and will lead to food shortages. The hit of the coronal mass ejection, predicted for August 13th, that will knock out the power grid will also knock many planes out of the sky. I am predicting that on August 23rd, 2025, there will be a catastrophic asteroid hit of Earth, which will trigger the eruption of Yellowstone volcano and will cause the volcano in the Canary Islands to collapse into the Atlantic Ocean and send a mega tsunami towards the east coast. The asteroid will also trigger a mega landslide on Hawaii Island that will trigger a mega tsunami that will hit the west coast. It will also trigger the collapse of the Hoover Dam, which will cause a water panic in California, and many other devastating earthquakes. The day of the Lord, the second coming of Lord Jesus Christ, Judgment Day, will be at the end of 2026. The date that this video is posted proves that these predictions are being made ahead of time, as do these time-stamped emails and forensic notes PDF documents. If you are skeptical for some reason, please email me and I will forward these to you. Believe me, I know far better than you how the prediction made in this video was derived. And more importantly, I know far better than you why the righteous Christian God of the Bible has given me a voice through this prediction. If you are a quote-unquote Christian or Muslim, this prediction was not learned through a demon. Be warned that blaspheming the Holy Spirit is the unforgivable sin. If you are a New Ager or New Spirituality person, this prediction was not learned through somehow tapping into the supposed universal collective consciousness. If you are a conspiracy theorist, this prediction was not learned through figuring out a supposed code that the Illuminati and Satanists are using. This prediction was learned through the Bible and through watching carefully the Lord's prophetic signs, which Jesus commanded all Christians to do. Besides proving that Jesus Christ is the Lord, the reason why God has given me a voice through this prediction is to prove that the controversial things that I am saying in the videos on this channel are the truth. Therefore, a wise person will want to watch all of the videos on this channel. What I will also do is create a video or two that summarizes some of the controversial things that the Lord will prove to be true when the prediction being made in this video comes to pass. I will leave links to these must-watch videos in the description box below this video. Again, the purpose of this prediction, that is from God, is to prove these things that I will talk about. And therefore, it would be foolish to not watch the videos that I will leave links for in the description box below this video. Make a note right now of these alternative platforms that you can find me on, in case you can't find me later. All right, this video here, this explanation is a personal favorite of mine, as you'll see, and it is amazing beyond words. I do not have the words, so just to confirm first, this email is composed on January 5th. The post date of the video also proves that this prediction is being made ahead of time. All right. Now, God is pointing to January 10th, 2025. We knew that God was pointing to this date prior to January 3rd. On January 3rd, we learned why God is pointing to January 10th. On January 3rd, it was announced by the judge in the Trump court case related to Stormy Daniels and the hush money that the sentencing would occur on January 10th. Now, this video isn't about the significance of all of that, especially in regards to President Trump. What I'm talking about here is the predicted suitcase nuke explosion in Manhattan on January 13th, 2025, which is 3 days after January 10th. Now, January 10th, 2025, will be exactly 42 years, which is prophetic because in the Bible, in Bible prophecy, the Antichrist's period is said to be 42 months, a symbolic 42 months, and we are already past. Believe it or not, we are already past the final 42 months. I know for those that know things about Bible prophecy, how surprising that is for you. I know, okay? But I'm not going to explain it in this video because I explained it too many other times in other videos. But when the prediction comes to pass, it'll prove what I am saying. Okay? The 7 years was between the two eclipses and the beginning of Trump's presidency. It was 2017 to 2024. And it was only symbolism, and it's case closed when the prediction comes to pass, because believe me, I know far better than you the reason and purpose for the prediction. Make no mistake. Okay? It's end of debate. I mean, it's time to discard the 7-year timelines. Case closed. Period. Okay? I know what I'm talking about, and the prediction will prove that this is God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections, which is only being explained on this channel. Okay, so enough of that. So anyway, we've got a 42 years connection, which is symbolic of the Antichrist. And this date, January 10th, 110, will be exactly 42 years after the release of U2's song, New Year's Day, the first single from their album War, their album named War. U2 would go on to produce an album named Joshua Tree. And that's relevant because Joshua in the Bible died at the age of 110, which is what is symbolized by the date 110. Furthermore, Joshua led the Israelites into the promised land on the date 110 in the Hebrew calendar. As I say in the next sentence, the date 110 symbolizes Joshua, who led the Israelites into the promised land on the date 110, and who died at the age of 110. Trump is a type for Joshua. On the day that the 110 stories collapsed on 9/11, Trump called into the local channel news station and trumpeted how inadvertently that his tower on Wall Street had become the tallest tower in lower Manhattan. Okay, that's Trump is, the word Trump in archaic English means trumpet or the sounding of a trumpet. And Trump's presidency and election campaign were synonymous with his border wall of security. And when he left office, his border wall of security collapsed in God's judgment. Because the Israelites marched around the walls of security, and before the walls of security collapsed in God's judgment, they blew trumpets, and then the walls of security collapsed in God's judgment. In other words, Trump is a big trumpet in God's signs, trumpeting the impending collapse of America's walls of security. The sentencing on January 10th, incidentally, is symbolic of this. It's symbolic of God's judgment. What is it? It's in a courtroom. What happens? The judge brings down his gavel and declares the judgment. It's symbolism. It's trumpet judgment. By the way, there are trumpet judgments in the book of Revelation regarding the destruction of America, because actually, believe it or not, America is clearly mentioned in Revelation chapter 8, which is the chapter about the 7 trumpet judgments. Okay, so Trump has been trumpeting the collapse of America's walls of security and judgment. Okay, you get the idea. Now, so that's why the symbolism in Trump being sentenced, especially on the date 110, which is about Joshua and walls of security collapsing in God's judgment. Trump is predicted to die, incidentally, 2 times 17 days after the 2 times 17 charges sentencing. 2 times 17 hints at the 2 planes that struck the 2 towers 17 minutes apart on 9/11. And the reason for that is because the flood judgment in the Bible began on the date 2/17, the 17th day of the second month, as it says. That's why the charges, the 2 times 17 charges, stem from allegations by Stormy Daniels. Daniel being a hint at the book of Revelation, a prophet, but also this is flood symbolism. That's why 2 times 17 charges, because and the name Stormy, as in the flood. Trump is predicted to die 2 times 17 days later. Okay, that's another story. February 13th, 2025. The implication of this is that the civil war that we are currently in will escalate after Trump's death. Also, that's the reason for connecting all of this to the album War. Because again, this comes from the 42nd anniversary of the release of the album War by U2. Okay? Also, U2 took their name from the US spy plane that crashed. Trump is predicted to die after Harris is predicted to die in a plane crash. But also, the U2 spy plane crash was one of the major events in the Cold War. More war symbolism. So there is a song on U2's War album named Refugee that speaks of America as being the promised land. And this is extremely prophetic because the spiritual founding of America were the Pilgrims who founded the nation on a relationship with God and the Bible, the only other nation other than Israel to do so in history. The Pilgrims saw their crossing of the Atlantic and escape from persecution from the King of England as analogous to the escape from the persecution of the King of Egypt with the Israelites and their crossing of the Jordan River into the Promised Land. The New World was the Promised Land for the Pilgrims. The least theologically inclined founders, Thomas Jefferson and Benjamin Franklin, wanted the seal of America to depict the Israelites leaving Egypt. And they were the least theological if you will. In other words, this understanding of the founding of America, which and Benjamin and Thomas Jefferson were a long time after the Pilgrims. This founding was for a long time understood that America was a promised land. Okay? And so the story goes on and on. I mean, Ronald Reagan even recognized this. He mentioned this in his farewell address, and he mentioned John Winthrop's sermon, before the Pilgrims departed their ships, which was derived from Deuteronomy chapter 28 in the Bible, the words from Moses from God to the Israelites before they crossed the Jordan River. And they regarded God's promises of either blessings or curses, depending on whether or not they would obey his commandments or not. It's a reflection between blessings and curses, which is what the number 11 symbolizes. It's a reflection. Which is why John Winthrop delivered this sermon when he led the 11 ship flotilla. That's also why it was 101 passengers on the Mayflower. And why, although they were destined for Virginia, they had an arduous, much longer journey than anticipated of 66 days that led them to Massachusetts, and 66 is the 11th triangular number. In triangular numbers, the last number in the 11th row is 66. Also, this is why the big serial number on the propeller of the Titanic on its maiden voyage, which mirrored the maiden voyage of the Pilgrims, the 101 Pilgrims, the big serial number on the Titanic is 101. John Winthrop, the first governor of the Massachusetts Bay Colony, lived on Governor's Island, which today is Logan Airport. And it was from Logan Airport that Flight 11, with its crew of 11 people, flew into the twin towers that looked like a giant 11 in New York State, the 11th state to join the Union, in New York City, made of 11 letters. God was warning through the 9/11 events of all of this. So when we speak of this song by U2, Refugee, that speaks of an Irish refugee wanting or leaving and going to the promised land, America, this is very symbolic and prophetic in God's signs, given if, like I'm making the case for, that this song, Refugee, is indeed prophetic. But that is the big clue, is that the lyrics of the song have this theme. Because that's the reason for U2. Because U2 is known for being this Irish band that captivated America, took America by storm, had number one hits, etc. And the symbolism, though, in them being the Irish band is this refugee symbolism, because Ireland is known for being the place from which the masses of refugees came in the immigration waves in history. Okay, so you get the symbolism here now, right? It's U2 we are talking about, this famous Irish band that took over America and has, by the way, incidentally, repeatedly sung about America in their songs, in other albums too. I mean, that's one of the themes of their music, in their lyrics, is America. Okay. So, this song is from this album War, which I've established is prophetic because of it being the 42nd anniversary on the date 110, which is relevant because of the album Joshua Tree, like I explained, all right? Now, the song's first lyric in the song, and its chorus, because the song begins with its chorus, begins with the words, woe, woe, repeated twice. Woe, exclamation mark. That's extremely prophetic. God is using this woe in his signs, this woe symbolism This word woe exclamation mark is used in the context in the Bible of extreme judgment from God. U is the 21st letter in the alphabet. And so U2 hints at 23. Which is, by the way, incidentally, why they opened the new Sphere Theater in Las Vegas, Sin City, Atomic City, which is why their new song, Atomic City, they made it for this. That's why the Sphere Theater is known for, famously, costing $2.3 billion, which hints at 23, which is what the name U2 hints at, 23. The theater also has, from what I recall, 23 executive box seats, or suites, I should say. Okay, so the reason for 23 is that the number of the basketball president is 23. The basketball president wore 23 in high school. On the date 110, U2, which hints at 23, released War, the album War. The date 110 and 23, okay, because it was in 1983 on the date 110, not 2025, right? On the date 110, 1983, U2, which hints at 23, released War. This hints at 11 and 23, which, as I explained earlier in another paragraph, hints at 1123, because it is the 188th prime number, and H188 is the word in the Hebrew concordance for woe exclamation mark. Okay, so the band's album and the band's name hint at woe, and one of their songs in the album begins with woe, woe. And I'm making the case that it's prophetic because it talks about America, and it being the promised land, which was, in fact, indeed the promised land for God's people, the pilgrims. It became God's nation of disciples, and on and on. It was used by God to spread the gospel around the world in the 19th and 20th centuries. It was God's instrument. Okay? But it has now turned away from God, and like ancient Israel, will now be destroyed. And so, that's why we have this connection through U2, because this is the band that sings about America in a positive way, mostly, I'm pretty sure, including in this song, as it refers to America as being the promised land, which is extremely prophetic, as I've explained now. Okay? Now, not only that, though, it was released on the date 110, which hints at 11, and I explained the connection between the number 11 and the promised land and the pilgrims. Okay. Now, and it was the promised land for Irish immigrants too. The home of the Statue of Liberty was a symbolic beacon for them. I'm about to get to that, actually. Okay, so let's not jump ahead. And by the way, the sphere, the 2.3 billion sphere, and U2, symbolically opening it with the song Atomic City, right? That's also symbolism for the coming Antichrist leading the world and the explosion in New York City. Because it's an because the reason why Sin City is nicknamed Atomic City is because it's 60 miles south of where the first nuclear bomb was tested, the Trinity bomb. Speaking of religious overtones. So, War is U2's third album. Whoa, wait a second. I didn't even mean to do that. Yeah, so U2 through the number 23 does connect with the Trinity bomb. Well, not through the number 23, but through the sphere and the song Atomic City. And we are talking about war. The bomb was made for war, the Trinity bomb. And we are talking about U2's third album, named War, which hints at Trinity. Oh, wow. I didn't expect something that deep. Whoa. Okay, and the name War is made of 3 letters. That's another confirmation of the prophetic significance of the third album here. I had no idea, though, that it pointed to the Trinity bomb. I had no idea. It really does. It points to the Trinity bomb, the first nuclear bomb. That's why the open sphere. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Okay, so get this. You're going to go, hopefully you'll be as excited as I am by the time I finish telling the story here. 3 days after January 10th, 2025, the 42nd anniversary of the release of the first song from the War album, is the date it is predicted that war will begin and there will be refugees in the Promised Land in New England after the suitcase nuke is detonated in New York City, the home of the Statue of Liberty that was a beacon to Irish immigrants. Okay, did you get that? So the reason for connecting to the 42nd anniversary, again, is the date 110. And that's confirmed through Trump because he is a type for Joshua. And the band U2 has the album named Joshua, and on and on. The 42nd anniversary also reveals adding 3 days because it was their third album. And the name War is made of 3 letters, but also, as we now know, U2 is pointing to the Trinity bomb, which was made for war. That's also why we add 3 days. And that gets us to January 13th, the subject of this video, which is the predicted date of the suitcase nuclear bomb in New York City, the home of the Statue of Liberty that was a beacon to Irish immigrants and refugees. Wow. There's more here. Well, here's the lyrics. Whoa, whoa, she's the refugee. I see your face. I see you staring back at me. Whoa, whoa, she's the refugee. Her mama say one day she's gonna live in America. Sorry. I was, when I was 13 and 14 years old, I was a big U2 fan, and I owned the cassette for the album War. And this was in a time when we had Sony Walkmans and we didn't have infinite access to all of the music like we do today. So, you end up playing the cassettes you own over and over. And I had forgotten about this song until I looked up the details of the War album. The reason why the War album came to me, because recently it was New Year's Day, and I woke up one morning thinking about the song New Year's Day because of this, history of mine. And that made me realize that because God does this, he will often plant these ideas in my mind that end up turning out to be leads to prophetic stories he's telling. This being a prime example. Okay, and so that's how I can know how the song goes, okay? So anyway, so you get the idea. She's going to sail away to America, live in America. Okay, let's see. Whoa, whoa, that's the chorus. Whoa, whoa, her papa go to war. Her mama say one day he's going to come back from far away. Okay, anyway. Her mama so say she's going to live in America. Yeah, America, whoa, whoa, she's a refugee, okay? There's a lyric in here, though, that mentions it being the Promised Land. I think it's at the beginning. Here it is. Okay. She's waiting for her man to take her by the hand and take her to this Promised Land, America. Okay. The final song on the album is titled 40. And, by the way, it was the fourth released and... Oh, sorry. The final song... Yeah, the final song on the album is 40, but it was also the final released single song as a single. And it was the fourth single. Okay, and Trump is known for his tower on 40 Wall Street, which he mentioned on 9/11 when he called into Channel 9 News. 9 pairs with 110, and the date 100 and the date 110. Okay, so the reason, so God develops this big picture of signs, patterns, and connections through pairing certain numbers together, as I've explained before. And 2 of these numbers are 9 and 110. And I know this because I've been studying his big picture of signs from morning until night for more than full-time hours for 7 years. And God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections works on the principle of second and third. This is confirming a matter, as the Bible says is required. And this is what makes what is being explained on this channel true and not a product of one's imagination and different and unique than everything else on the internet that claims to be analysis of God's prophetic signs. And if we think about it, one simple way in which God would provide a second witness for us is through pairing certain numbers together. So this is 9 and 110. And the reason is because one reason is that Trump on 9/11 called into Channel 9 News and trumpeted how his tower on Wall Street had become the tallest tower in Lower Manhattan, and Wall Street was named after the 9-foot-high wall of security that the Dutch built to keep the British and the Indians out. In the Bible, Trump is a type for Joshua, and Joshua led the Israelites around the walls of security before they blew trumpets, and the walls of security collapsed in God's judgment. Joshua died at 110, which is why on 9/11, 110 stories of the Twin Towers collapsed in God's judgment. Also, Joshua led the Israelites into the Promised Land on the date 110. And the date 110 is also the day that Jesus, in his first coming, arrived officially as the King of the Jews. And so the second coming is symbolized by 2 dates 110, if you will. And that's why 2 towers of 110 stories. Okay, it was symbolic of the second coming. Now, the date 110, 2025, connects to Trump's press conference at 4T Wall Street on January 11th, 2024. That was after the day that the trial ended, the trial over the records and loan applications that cited 4T Wall Street. Okay, and it ended after 44 days. This was the allegation that Trump had exaggerated his records, but his lawyers proved in court that this wasn't true, and there was no harm done to the bank. It was in other words a witch hunt. But the point is, symbolically, that it ended after 44 days, and the media, that was part of the headlines, even some of them. It was in the news story how the trial took 44 days. And then after, Trump spoke at a press conference at his 4T Wall Street tower, which made this a massive prophetic sign, okay? Now, God, prior to January 11th, 2024, had been overwhelmingly pointing to this date. It was the center point of all of these eclipses. I'm not going to get into it, I guess. But also, on this day, the coach for the Patriots was fired. The New England Patriots are by far the biggest important sports team in God's prophetic signs. And sports signs are extremely important in God's signs. Okay? American sports signs. Anyway, that's another story as well, why that is. It's God's brilliant way of being able to communicate so much through number symbolism, mascots, cities, players. It's just amazing. And also it's pop culture, and that's what God uses to communicate his signs. Like I'm talking about U2 here. Well, sports are also a big part of American culture, right? But God is, if you are saying, well, you know what, I'm not into sports, it doesn't matter. God, furthermore, has incorporated every conceivable aspect of pop culture into his big picture of science. So there's really no excuse for, Anyway, the point is that the reason for the New England Patriots, as I have explained already, is the pilgrims and the number 11. That's why the Patriots coach, Bill Belichick, the coach of the Patriots for decades, who led them to 6 Super Bowls during this extremely prophetic period that God used them for, was fired on the date 1/11, which hints at 11. That's astounding. It's symbolic of judgment, which is why the end of the trial and the sentencing that was to come, which is symbolic of God judging America for having departed from America as he promised he would to the Pilgrims through John Winthrop and his sermon to the 11 ship flotilla pilgrims. Okay. All right. So anyway, I've established this 11/11/2024 date. Okay? When Trump delivered some words at 40 Wall Street. I should say Trump-et delivered 40 words at 40 Wall Street. Now, that's all confirmation for the prophetic significance of this song named 40 on U2's War album. Okay? Because again, the 42nd anniversary involves Trump. And Trump is about 40 Wall Street. Okay? And I'll explain more here. But the lyrics of the song are about the Lord. Because U2 used to be a Christian rock group. I waited patiently for the Lord. He inclined and heard my cry. He lifted me up out of the pit, out of the miry clay. I will sing, sing a new song. I will sing, sing a new song. How long to sing this song? How long must we sing this song? How long, how long? Okay, so you set my feet upon a rock. Rock in the Bible is symbolic of Jesus. You made my footsteps firm. Many will see and hear. I will sing, sing a new song. Okay, so that's the last song of the War album. Okay, sing a new song, because there'll be a new song to be sung after the coming war in the Messianic age, in the 1,000 years of peace. That's what this is referring to. But the Lord has also tied into it to confirm it as a prophetic sign, like I've just explained, Trump and 40 Wall Street. Okay, now Trump will be back in Manhattan on the date 110, on the 42nd anniversary of the release of War, with this song named 40. Okay, I think you get the idea. Plus, 40 is an extremely prophetic number in the Bible. The Israelites, before they crossed into the Promised Land, were in the desert for 40 years, for example. So, in other words, 40 is symbolic of the Promised Land. And again, the Pilgrims, the spiritual founding of America, saw their crossing of the Atlantic as being analogous to crossing the Jordan River into the Promised Land. And 40 years is a big part, because the Israelites had to wait 40 years before they were allowed by God to cross into the Promised Land. And why is that? They doubted his promises in the desert. And so God waited a generation to pass before he would allow the Israelites to enter the Promised Land. Because he promised the Promised Land after they got out of Egypt, or before they even got out of Egypt. And then they started to doubt him and complain and disobeyed him. And so that's why, anyway, the 40 years. So you get the idea. It's extremely prophetic. So yeah, 40, the song 40 was the fourth and final song from War, which hints at the 44th president, who will come to power after the predicted suitcase nuke in Manhattan, the beginning of war, and civil war. Because the red states aren't going to be happy about that. Not that I predict an actual military conflict. I do not predict that. I predict what Bible prophecy says, which is the persecution of God's true conservatives and Christians, his faithful. I was a big U2 fan when I was 13 or 14 years old, and 14, around that age. I owned the U2 War cassette, as I explained a minute ago, in the day of Sony Walkmans and when infinite music selection was not accessible. This is why the song New Year's Day came to mind when I woke up one morning recently It was the first song by U2 to chart in the US. Oh, that confirms the prophetic significance too, because God uses firsts for his signs. And like I am saying, U2 is about America. It's the theme in their music. The album Joshua Tree. There's a song in or on the album Joshua Tree named In God's Country, which is about America. So, the following album was Rattle and Hum, and it was about America. There's this theme in if you know U2, you know what I'm talking about. And so, the first song to chart in the US is pretty significant, prophetically. Assuming that U2 is prophetic, which I've established is. So, that's an amazing detail to point out, is that the War album was the first one in which they had a song that charted in the US. As for the possible significance of the third song released on YouTube's third album, Sunday Bloody Sunday, 3 times 3 days after 110, and 3 times 3 is 9, and God pairs 9 with 110, as I explained. And this date 110 is the anniversary. 3 times 3 days after 110, the anniversary of the third U2 album, with a title consisting of 3 letters, War, will be a Sunday. It'll be Sunday, January 19th. There is evidence that January 19th will be the day that Joe Biden, will step down. The Secret Service code name for Biden is Celtic, which hints at Ireland, which hints at U2. Perhaps something else that is bloody will happen on this day, on January 19th. But in any case, also, Joe Biden, the Celtic, just the other day, on January 4th, gave Bono, the lead singer of U2, the Medal of Freedom. That's amazing. That's amazing. And this is because of the timing. Well, Joe Biden, I guess you could say, is the Irish president, apparently, of Irish descent. And that's symbolic, because we're talking about connecting to the date Biden will step down through the Irish band. As I explained, again, Celtic, the code name for Biden. And it's clear, right? It's 3 times 3 days because it's the third U2 album, made of 3 letters. And, the 3 times 3 days later is a Sunday, and there's a song named Sunday Bloody Sunday, a very famous song. Okay, the third of the 3 songs released from the album. That's also in itself, by the way, a hint at the third song. So you get the idea now. And we also established earlier how U2 points to the Trinity bomb. Now, this is the I don't know what to say. This is the I don't know what to say. There's no words. If I could, say a word to adequately describe this, I would. But it's amazing beyond words. Mind-boggling, whatever you want to call it. The total length of the album, War, is 42 minutes and 3 seconds. And if you didn't get that, we are talking about, and have been talking about, but this discovery was discovered after I wrote the other emails. We are talking about the 42nd anniversary followed by 3 days to get to the date of the predicted suitcase nuke and beginning of War, the explosion of the suitcase nuke in New York City. 42 years and 3 days after the release of the first song, New Year's Day, which hints at this time of year. Incidentally, I forgot to mention that. The first song, New Year's Day from War, 42 years and 3 days, and the album is 42 minutes and 3 seconds long. I don't know what to say. It's amazing. Be prepared. There's one last thing to say here. There's a song named Drowning Man. Drowning Man. And for those that are Christian, I highly recommend, I assume that you will now, given the recognition that this is prophecy from God, this video, when the prediction comes to pass, go look up the song Drowning Man. This is about Trump, but it's more than about Trump. Because because I mentioned earlier the symbolism of Stormy Daniels and him dying 2 times 17 days, flood symbolism after the date 110 and the sentencing and all that, right? But it's not about Trump. It's about the Christians, and it's about the coming rescue and the rapture. It's about staying strong, holding tightly to what you have, all right? The storm is about to pass. Don't, hold on tightly. Okay, so the Lord will come across the sky for his love for you. Okay. Go to Google, get the video with the lyrics shown. And yeah, I think you understand. All right, there's more to say here. Partly it's a summary, and I think you'll really appreciate it. And there's some new information that's it's astounding as well. It's mind-boggling as well. So here is what I wrote a day after the other information was written that I have just gone through. There's more information, in other words, that just keeps coming. January 13th is 3 days after the 42nd anniversary of U2's War album that is 42 minutes and 3 seconds long. Their third album. War is 3 letters. The name U2 comes from the plane crash that was a major incident in the Cold War. U2's new song, Atomic City, refers to Las Vegas, where U2 opened the $2.3 billion Sphere Theater, which has 23 executive suites. 2.3 billion hints at 23. U is the 21st letter. U2 hints at 21 plus 2 equals 23. Las Vegas is nicknamed Atomic City because it is 2 times 30 miles, which hints at 23, from where the first atomic bomb was tested. The Trinity bomb. Which is why War, which has 3 letters, is their third album. Bono, the lead singer of U2, was given the Medal of Freedom by the Irish president, whose nickname by the Secret Service is Celtic, on January 4th, 2025, 3 days after New Year's Day, which hints at 3 days after the 42nd anniversary of the release of the song New Year's Day, the first to chart in the US of U2, by U2. New Year's Day, the first single from War, was U2's first song to chart in the US. New Year's Day was released on January 10th, 110 in 1983. when these celebrity singers came together after the American Music Awards to record We Are the World was the date 128, January 28th in 1985. And that date, and the song written by MJ, which equals 23, was exactly 23 months after the release of U2's album War. And one thing that I feel should be emphasized here to end this video is that God pairs 23 and 44 together in his big picture of signs, patterns, and connections to confirm the signs and connections. Because the Antichrist is the 44th president and also the basketball president who wore jersey number 23. And this is how God's big picture of big picture of signs, patterns, and connections works, which is only being explained on this channel. It works on the principle of second and third and multiple witnesses confirming a matter, as the Bible says is required. And this is what makes what is being explained on this channel true and not a product of one's imagination and different and unique than everything else on the internet that claims to be an analysis of God's prophetic signs. But if we think about it, one simple way in which he would provide a second witness for us is through pairing certain numbers together, such as 23 and 44. Now, as I mentioned, the release of the War album was exactly 23 months before the recording of We Are the World, and also the release of War was exactly 36 weeks or 252 days before the bombing of the Capitol building, which identified Barack. The bombing of the Capitol building, again, was exactly 4 times 4 months to the release of We Are the World. And that 4 times 4 months hints at the 44th president, which pairs with the 23 months, as the basketball president wore jersey number 23. And once again, the name U2 hints at 23. U is the 21st letter, and 2 adds to the 21 to give us 23. Believe me, I know far better than you how the prediction made in this video was derived. And more importantly, I know far better than you why the righteous Christian God of the Bible has given me a voice through this prediction. If you are a quote-unquote Christian or Muslim, this prediction was not learned through a demon. Be warned that blaspheming the Holy Spirit is the unforgivable sin. If you are a New Ager or New Spirituality person, this prediction was not learned through somehow tapping into the supposed universal collective consciousness. If you are a conspiracy theorist, this prediction was not learned through figuring out a supposed code that the Illuminati and Satanists are using. This prediction was learned through the Bible and through watching carefully the Lord's prophetic signs, which Jesus commanded all Christians to do. Besides proving that Jesus Christ is the Lord, the reason why God has given me a voice through this prediction is to prove that the controversial things that I am saying in the videos on this channel are the truth. Therefore, a wise person will want to watch all of the videos on this channel. What I will also do is create a video or two that summarizes some of the controversial things that the Lord will prove to be true when the prediction being made in this video comes to pass. I will leave links to these must-watch videos in the description box below this video. Again, the purpose of this prediction, that is from God, is to prove these things that I will talk about. And therefore, it would be foolish to not watch the videos that I will leave links for in the description box below this video. Aliens and UFOs are demons masquerading as aliens and UFOs. Most people's spiritual experiences are demonic deception, especially if they are not a true follower of Christ. In the last days, many people who claim to be a follower of Christ will have spiritual experiences that are in reality demonic. God became a man and died a horrible death at the hand of the ruler of this world, Satan, and then defeated death for you, so that you too can overcome death, which is the price that must be paid for sin. It is time to repent, which means to change one's ways and turn to God and become a disciple of Jesus. Please leave a like and upvote the video, and once this prediction has come to pass, share this video with everyone you know, and more, don't stop sharing it everywhere in social media. It is essential that everyone immediately read the homepage of my website, TrumpPrediction.com. If you are watching this on the YouTube platform, please note that not all of the videos are on YouTube. You need to switch to the Odyssey.com or Rumble.com channel, and do it now in case you aren't able to later.